So, thank you everybody for the warm welcome. This is kind of special thing that I'm in now. As maybe you know already, we will retire in February next year, and this will be the second last presentation for me to do after the long years. So this is today, and then in Berlin one more, and then in February it stops. The other special thing today is that the first time in our common career, Anke and me are on stage together, and yeah. Yes, I'm happy for that, and Anke hesitates normally a little bit. She doesn't like to speak English on stage, but I'm really looking forward that we will manage it. Yes. We want to do a presentation that is not so much based on slides, but rather on stories. We will give you some longer and shorter stories from our common work. And when I said that to a colleague from SAPT before, she said, "Oh, it's like grandparents coming and talking from their work or from their lives." And yes, it is true, Lioba. It feels a little bit like that. So, Anke, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. I know that Federico persuaded Peter to persuade me to come to the stage, because I'm really not used to speak English, and I'm not used to speak to an audience. But we tried together, and like it is always, trust the process, and so many friends and good people. So it will, yeah. That's. Yeah. And in the morning when I came from the station, I found this nature, these leaves, and now I use it to ground myself here on the stage. Okay. I want to. I start.
Yes,
introduce
please.
myself. Okay. So my origin is in the north of Germany, near the Northern Sea. I was born in 1960, and I think it's important for me that my consciousness was formed in a time when the Second World War only was 15 years ago in Germany, and there was a lot of a lot of topics in the consciousness of the people and of the parents and so on. And in that time, but I had a really modern primary school teacher. This was really nice, with a sofa in the classroom, and we made music and we made theater and things like that, also in this time. And I always had also a contact to the Protestant church, the main Protestant church, and in that time, and for me, I think also church can be a room where you expand your consciousness, because, for example, all these strange stories of this Jesus, really strange stories, you should read them. They are so paradox, and I think that as a child, I thought, this is so strange, and this expanded my consciousness in that time. When I came, I started studying medicine in the Ruhr Valley. This is a high industrialized area in Germany, totally destroyed in the Second World War. And I liked to live there, and I liked the people. And then later, and I worked 3 years in the psychiatric hospital, and then I wanted to go for 1 year abroad somewhere, and then returning to Germany to make you know what I mean. So, and then I came to Solothurn, and on the first day I met this young man. He was a young man in that day, and so there it begins working as a couple. But yeah, like that. You want to?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, or I say in the 90s. Then in the 90s, I worked with children and adolescents. I had the opportunity to work in Solothurn with them, and this was extremely important for me, because normally in adult psychotherapy or psychiatry, you do not really think about birth, not about the prenatal, is that right? Prenatal time. You do not really think about the context where you are born in. And when you are working with children, you always think about what is the context of the family, what are the problems of the others in the family, and perhaps whether the child is, or that the child is only the person who carries the symptoms. It's not, in many cases, it's not the child that has the problems. Okay, this was also really important for our work together, because if you work together in PAT and with psychedelics, it's also really important to know something about development phases. Is the right word? Yeah, development phases when people have a regression. So, okay.
Good.
Good?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I think I will say something about my person, specifically to our work and to group therapy during the presentation. For the moment, enough. Just one word to the mandala on the right side of the picture. This is a mandala of a patient of mine. She's the longest one in psychotherapy with me, more than 20 years, and she underwent a terrible sexual abuse as a child with her father, and she came in therapy, and then after a time she also did then psychedelic assisted therapy, and the recurrent working through of her abuse was that every time when she took the LSD, her father came and he molested her and embarrassed her, and she felt panicked all the time, and she was writing pictures of monsters coming with big hands. And of course at that time also Anke and me were very important for her to be the good parental models of giving safety and all that. And then in one session she told afterwards her father came again like all the other times, and she said, "Go away, it's enough now. I don't want to be in contact with you." And on the LSD experience, I mean, the father was dead at that moment since years, and then in the experience, the father went away and he didn't come back in the LSD sessions. And then 1 or 2 times later, she was painting this mandala, which I think is especially beautiful, this kind of the full world and the bright world and the repaired world, or the whole world. And for me, it's like a symbol what psychedelic assisted therapy can do with people. Yes, let's talk a little bit about couples we met personally, or I met personally. I noticed that I miss one, Keren Tsarfati and Ido Siemion. I know them also. They are Israeli therapists living in a peace village in Israel. There are a few peace villages where Palestinian Israelis and Jewish Israelis live together, and they are really nice people also. They are the protagonists of the Trip of Compassion. They are trained body psychotherapists, and of course they have a hard time at the moment. Then Stan Grof, I met Stan Grof a few times, and I think it's very special that with every one of his 3 wives, he worked closely together professionally. I didn't met Joan Halifax, but Christina and Brigitte Grof, I met also a few times. Then on the right side, upper right side, Samuel Widmer and Daniel Nicole. Samuel Widmer was for me the door opener to psychedelic therapy. Through him, I came into psychedelics in the year 1988, and I was in therapy with him about 4 years, and I was also a trainee in his group for 3 years. But then in the middle of the 1990s, there was a total separation between us and also between him and SAPT. On the surface, it was a conflict about collaborating in a scientific project that we planned, but underneath, I think it was a conflict about power, about leadership, about a spiritual and therapeutic leader, which was more obvious than later on when he founded his Cherry Blossom community. Until then, he died in 2017. On the lower left, there are Katja Malievskaya and George Goldsmith. They are the founders of Compass Pathways. And due to personal involvement of a major improvement of an OCD in the family of Katja, they wanted to go forward with psilocybin. They planned a study at the Isle of Man because there is a special legislation. This project failed, and then finally they founded Compass Pathways with that study that was mentioned in several presentations this time, and they are on the way to make psilocybin maybe a registered medication. Andrea and Henrik Jungaberle, they live in Berlin, and in 2016 I was on a panel with Henrik in Berlin, and at that time the reputation of psychedelics in Germany was very poor. So every time psychedelics was mentioned in the newspapers, it was about people dying in Berlin during therapy. Therapists are in total emergency in a workshop in northern Germany, and Henrik and then also Andrea, then they really had the mission to improve the situation for psychedelics in Germany, and they founded Mind Foundation. And at that time, I think it was light years away from doing a psychedelic research with psilocybin in Germany, like Lea Mertens presented this afternoon. So I think this is one of the miracles of the psychedelic renaissance, that Andrea and mainly Henrik achieved this in a few years only. Annie and Michael Mithöfer, I think most among you and us know them. They are somewhere the good parents of the psychedelic movement. So they are really integer and lovable persons, and they worked a lot on this MAPS MDMA PTSD trial. On the right side down there are Donna Dreyer and Richard Jensen. They were mentioned this morning already by Robert Schövers. And I mean, I totally agree what Robert said. I mean, it's a really devastating damage that what Richard did, engaging in an intimate relationship with a former patient. And I think the worst thing is not that what is shown on this video clip, which is a kind of problematic work, cathartic work probably, but then that he engaged in that relationship, and that is really a terrible thing at that moment of the development of psychedelics. Yes.
Okay, I continue. So I want to introduce you to some people or some couples in Switzerland. We worked together, and we met since 20 or more than 20 years in the SAPT intervention group. Okay. Kommt this? So I want to introduce you to Sonja Stick and Jura Stick. We asked them, or Peter asked them, what do you want to say about being a couple in psychedelic therapy. Juraj and Sonja both come from Slovakia, and because of all those political reasons in the 60s, since then they live in Basel and work together, and I want to give a voice to it, I want to read it. So they said, we got married in 1966 after our daughters had grown up. Sonja joined our psychotherapy groups as a co-therapist. Due to the special permission, we worked together with MDMA and LSD in couple therapy and group therapy. We appreciative communication, mutual support, and tolerance in our relationship was very much appreciated by the participants. It was a great joy and satisfaction for us to be a role model as a couple. At the same time, we became more aware of dealing with and resolving our conflicts in a mindful, transparent, and fair way. During the sessions, Juraj guided the process and chose the music. Sonja practiced individual body work, especially when perinatal issues arose. We enjoyed sharing our experiences with colleagues in the SEPT intervention group. This all strengthened our relationship.
Yes, they are really the psychedelic elders in the SEPT.
The older elderlies, and we are the younger elderlies.
Yeah. Friederike Meckel-Fischer and Konrad Fischer. Maybe you know the history with Friederike Meckel. She worked in the underground and was, in 2009, I think she was prosecuted by the police for working in underground, and then she was sentenced 1 or 2 years later with a fine. The fine was that she worked with illegal drugs and not for therapeutic transgressions. And then after that, because this was obvious now that she worked in underground, she wrote a book, Therapy with Substance, maybe you know it, where she precisely described her work. And once in an interview and in a television video clip, she said, illegally does not mean irresponsible. And I think, yes, I would agree with her. This is, I mean, it is illegal, and she accepts that she was
punished. No.
Punished, yes. But I think she's not an unresponsible person. And they are writing, we are very familiar with each other, we trust each other, we have different skills and talents. Over time, we learned to recognize and use these not as a competition, but as an enrichment. Working as a couple has the advantage of gender distribution, broadening the field of observation and focus. We can complement each other or use opposing strengths, take different perspectives. Shared work becomes easier. In the group, we had something like a role model, even when we disagreed. Sometimes we also represented inner conflicts, parts of the client. The division of work was that Friederike had the overall leadership, which was a challenge at the beginning. It was then necessary to clarify our own relationship dynamics again, so that a balance prevailed again. It was not always easy, and it took time until each of us could authentically be herself or himself.
Yes, and then this is Verena Wittmer and Peter Oehn. Many of you know them.
Sitting in the audience, by the way.
Sitting in the audience, by the way, yes. Peter is a psychiatrist, psychotherapist, and Verena a psychotherapist, and they worked together for many years. Especially, they made this MAPS PTSD study in their own practice in Biberist for some years, and so we had always a lot to speak about and to discuss and to share when they told us about their experiences with their patients in the intervention group. I want to read it too. Our motivation to work as a couple in group PIT was the experience that together and with our differences, we had a greater and more positive impact than when we worked alone or with other co-therapists. The group PIT was always a project of togetherness for us, our common child, because they had children with other partners before. It was particularly satisfying to witness growth and healing in the individual group members. The PIT enables greater sharing of joy and sorrows through substance-related openness and closeness.
Yes, and I mean, by the way, when we founded this intervision group in the late 90s, we were all members in SAP, and it was just by chance that there were only couples. I mean, we met because we were in Switzerland, and we were close enough together to meet in person. There was no Zoom call at that time, of course, and we met, every 2 to 3 months, I think, and we went to each other and discussed and then presented all kinds of therapeutic problems. So it was not limited to psychedelics. It was really a kind of psychotherapy intervention collegial supervision group. Yes, these two are not part of this intervision group, Peter and Heike Hess, but they are long SAPT members. Peter is member, I think, since SAPT was founded in 1985. Verena Wittmer, by the way, also. She is one of the founding members. And we know each other a long time, and they both are musician therapists. And they also did groups over a very long time. And they write working as a couple in psychedelic therapy, or in music therapy rather, for them, means to us masculine and feminine energy as an offer for the client with the role of parenting, stability and security in early childhood experiences as well as in traumatic experiences, support in difficult situations with well-rehearsed solutions to problems, avoidance of fixations during transferences, better handling of countertransferences, quicker recognition of projections by the other partner. As a danger, we see the one-sided ingrained view and interpretation of the altered state of consciousness through our common concept of life. In addition, it offers the danger of being idealized too much as a couple. We will talk about idealization just after. We have a slightly different opinion to that, seeing this as a danger. Yes, then there was this article at the end of last year by this blog, Ecstatic Integration. I had a long interview with Jules Evans, one of the authors, and in that text he's writing, he and his colleague, but in fact one still sees many couples working together in legal retreats or psilocybin centers. Why are there still so many couples? My theory is that psychedelia is a bit like evangelical Christianity. It's an all-consuming passion and experience, belief system and culture that is often at odds with secular mainstream culture, so it helps if both couples are into it. And yes, I disagree in some points. I mean, it is good that someone writes critical articles of any kind within the psychedelic community, like the presentation of Michiel van Elk yesterday. I think it's very enlightening, and also articles like that. But in some ways, I disagree with, I feel, not being a part of an industry. So, I mean, industry is really a little bit a nasty word. It means mass production, and it means it's something that is really only economic, and that's not me. So I'm not included in that, in my opinion. And the other thing about evangelical Christianity, I think, although we had an open talk over more than 1 hour, and I really tried to explain what we are doing, I think there is a misunderstanding. We are really identified as psychotherapists, Anke and me. We are not, and also the members of this intervision group, I think they would say their identity is psychotherapeutic. And it is not our task to give a teaching or a lecture. We are not meditation teachers. We have not a worldview to give, but we are helpers in the way of the patients to become more autonomous, to reduce symptoms, to be more free in life or whatever. But the goal is not the same like for Christians, that you do a faithful life or whatever. And so I think he should differentiate this a little bit and not put everything in the same pot, and that we have this. Yes, we have a passion for that, otherwise we would not do it, but it is not the same like to propagate an ideology.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I want to add that I have to say that in that time I am really happy that we never we do not use this work, we do not live from this work, we have our profession, or we work in the psychiatric practice for all time, and we do not earn money, we lose money with this work. And but I'm happy that we had it like that, because I think some of you will try to live and to earn money with this work. And if you have a second or a third own, was heißt das, Bedürfnis, need, so you have to, then perhaps it's a little bit problematic in some way, but now it's like this, it tries to be a way to live with this. Oh, okay. And you know what I mean. And the other thing is, because it's existential work, it's really, and there are some traditions that they say you cannot earn money with this if you are allowed to work in this field. You cannot earn money with this. It's also, this is not our world, but this is a space where this work belongs to. And the second thing is with evangelical Christianity. Okay, no, not so important. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a secret, but for us, working with psychedelics is a financial disaster, I can tell you. And it's a luck that Anke was earning enough money as a medical doctor, because since 15 years I worked more and I earned less. So that was the reality, and I think that really should change for the next generation. So this is not a good model. We are not a good model for the economic situation. We really work hard to change this, that younger colleagues can make their money without getting rich, but can make their money.
Okay.
Okay, what does it mean to us?
Okay, but you wrote it, so you should.
It's me. Okay, shall I read it?
Yeah, sure.
We hesitated a long time to work together, fearing that the burden of common work in PAT might be too heavy. Now we do it, and yes, it's a burden, but it's also highly satisfying. What we try to do is to live our relationship in an authentic and professional way, not hiding different approaches, to be complementary in intervention, to remain humble in our role model. We see the risk and danger to be idealized too much, and we can imagine the deep conflict that would arise for our patients if we were to separate in real life. Yes, maybe now we can talk a little bit about group therapy and how we came to group therapy. So from my side, I did a training in group therapy when I specialized as a psychiatrist, and this was a psychodynamic talking group therapy for 2 years, and we together did 5 years of talking group therapy from, I don't know, 2003 to 2008 maybe. And we appreciated working in groups because it is a little bit what Deborah presented in the grief work. There is so much in common in groups, not only when you have a grief group where everyone is grieving, but in a normal group, also there are many topics in common, and really people help each other by simply being a role model. So, and I mean, it is more effective when another patient tell you about he is solving the same problem that you have, that when the therapist says something in this direction. So we were really convinced that group therapy is a good way of therapy. And we ended with the talking group therapy because the difficulty was that people made a too strong bondage. They didn't want to end the group, so that was a real problem. And new patients could not come in, but because there was a stable and old group, and no one wanted to go, and then finally we ended this. And then in 2007, when the first LSD study started, this was individual treatment, but first I thought, yes, that's a good opportunity for us to do a work together in individuals. And then what did you decide, Anke?
Yes, because in that time we had 2 little children, and also 3 of our parents died the 4 years before. And I thought, and because I worked with children and so on, I thought it could be that it's too heavy, because you worked with people with cancer and life-threatening disease, and I thought perhaps it would be difficult for the atmosphere in the family when we worked together in that time, and so we asked somebody else, Barbara, and you worked together with Barbara for the next 4 years in this study, in our practice.
Yes, and I mean that worked really well. I mean, Barbara, we are very familiar with each other, and there are a lot of things are not different if you work as a real couple or a therapeutic couple. Most of the topics are the same. The question is how familiar you are with the other and how much you can trust in the process of the other person. And I mean, that's basically the same. So it's not so special if you do it as a married couple or just as a therapist couple. So we managed well, Barbara and me. And then in the second study with LSD from 2017 to 21, then we were a group of therapists, the same topic with end-of-life anxiety and anxiety problems. And then Anke and me, we worked in the same group of therapists, but the therapists themselves were individual, just one therapist model. And then from 2020 onwards, I mean, that's only 4 years, we really work with groups, psychedelic therapy, in this exceptional limited medical use. Before, I worked together in group with Peter Owen and the third female therapist, Petra Fuchs, and that worked also quite well. Then Peter took his patients and I took mine. We formed a group together and worked together for 4 years. So what is our setting? Concretely, we do workshops.
Yes. There's 4 workshops a year, and but we have more, and with 8 to 9 participants, and yes, so they come 3 times a year, all these participants. So we work 4 times a year, but you only can behandeln,
treat
perhaps 20 people or 15 or something like that. So, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the limitations of working with psychedelics. You cannot treat dozens or even hundreds of people at a time. It's really consuming. It's another work than doing in normal practice. And so, yes, you see how limited we are. We do 4 workshops a year, a few individual treatments, and a group of 9 people in maximum, because the room is, you will see the room in a second. And we do also a preparation the first day in the evening. We make the preparation and sharing around and answering questions. The second day is the dosing day, where we are present all the time. And people are coming in the morning, 9:30. It lasts until 7 o'clock in the evening at least, before we eat together at 6 o'clock. Those who want to stay in the room, in the group room, can stay even longer, and those who want to go home or to the hotel, they can leave at 7 p.m. And the third day in the morning, we do a sharing round where patients put together their experience. They tell it to the others, but they tell it also to themselves. Finding words is a necessary process in our view, that helps the integration. It's not enough to say, yeah, it was fantastic and that's all. And also we encourage them to write a report. They bring the report into therapy the next week. Then the follow-up then will be in individual therapy. But if I were younger, I think I would do the whole therapy as a group therapy. Even the integration sessions remain in groups, but this is now, after having done it the other way for a long time, that worked also. So we sit opposite for not being too powerful in the appearance. So we always sit opposite, and we go individual to the patients. Rarely, sometimes we go together, but that is not regularly. I play the music from the stereo device, and I'm drumming with the shamanic drum. Anke plays monochord and chimes. Yeah. Here you see the group room. You see Anke sitting there on the left side. I am just on the mat that is empty. Behind there is the stereo device. And let's talk about some topics that arise in groups like that. For instance, yes, this idealization thing. What did we experience? What do you want to say to this topic?
Mm-hmm. That this is not only a danger, but it's necessary in some ways to trust somebody, to think this person can help me. But I think we have this in psychotherapy everywhere. People speak about that in psychotherapy. But I was astonished to feel that people could, more than I thought, that people could unterscheiden.
Differentiate?
Yeah. So sometimes I think one part of them, they really look at me as a totally wise person, and the other part of the person knows that I am this woman and this psychotherapist, and it's also possible sometimes sometimes you can speak to both sides. Yeah? You can be bifocal view. Huh? People know it. It's not that the whole person idealizes us. Huh? Mm-hmm. And that's what I always want to do, to try to be in contact with the person who came to therapy, this 55-year-old person, this person from today, the most grown-up part, the most reif heißt mature part of the person. This is like you do it in trauma therapy. Always to know, I work with this person today in my practice here. This is my Gegenüber. This is this is
the person opposite to you.
And and I work with this person to go back to the former ego states, or the child or somebody. I do not go to help the child. Or something. I am in contact with the person of today, and it's something to. I always be aware that this is the person, because this person of today has to care or take care, has to take care of the former ego state or the child inside. So this is really important. You should not be to try to be the best mother in the world, or the best something like that. Sometimes it's like that, and for some moments it's wonderful to be this woman and this mother, but it's important to deal with a grown-up person.
It is like what Winnicott said, it is enough to be a good enough mother or a good enough father, so you don't have to be ideal. And the message, I think, in this is we don't have to be too anxious about this kind of idealization. I mean, for many of the patients, it is a necessary and timely limited phase of a therapy. I mean, at the core of the idealization is gratefulness, is love, is a kind of an authentic feeling of being touched. And the other thing, the idealization, is the illusion about this. We are not the ideal person, and nor the patient is. And that, for me, it's very, when people are coming with the music and they say, oh, your music was fantastic. Always the right music at the right time. How can you manage this? And I think this is not because I'm such a fantastic music chooser and selector. It is that the substances make it fit. And that is the main mechanism. And even, I mean, I have not a problem in saying that, yet for the patient it was a touching experience how wonderfully music can fit to the personal process. And it is not about devaluation of this process, you see. And then by the time they learn that we are normal human beings and sometimes we do mistakes and we forget something or something doesn't really work, and that helps to become more realistic about therapeutic figures. And I mean, in psychedelic therapy, you are especially exposed to patients because they really get more of you when they are under substances. So there is no doubt that they will see our weaknesses and faults and conflicts that are unspoken and all that. So this process goes on by itself. I'm confident with that. Let's talk also about, how do we call it? Triangulation.
Yes.
Triangulation, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept, but it is the child and the parents, when they are together in some developmental stage. Psychoanalysis thinks that there is important processes going on between the child and mother and father, of course. And here it is more obvious that when we are a couple, that we are perceived as parental figures. And yes, shall I tell this little vignette with a female patient?
Okay. Yes.
This was in a female patient, and it was in an MDMA session. She was quite a long time in therapy with me, maybe 2 or 3 years. and we had a good, trusting relationship. And then she was at the place on the left side where the man with the orange T-shirt is, and she crawled over to...
You should say something about her
yes,
family.
She's a 45-year-old female suffering from depressive phase. She grew up in a very problematic family, a lot of children, and no money, and parents could not really care about the children. Finally, she found out that her father is not her father. That's the situation. And when she was crawling over to me, and I mean, I'm already on the floor, and I saw that she approaches, and there will be a physical contact between her and mine, and I was just checking myself if I'm okay, if I'm relaxed, or if I'm sexually sexually stimulated or whatever on my side, and I was pretty sure, no, I'm really calm. And I was checking, looking at her, and I really think a child is coming. I was quite sure this is not a 45-year-old woman coming towards me, but a child is coming. And so I accepted. She asked me if she could sit with her back to my front. So she was sitting between my legs. You could say that's very problematic. You should not talk about this on stage. But I think it was an important situation for her. I will read the protocol after. And then Anke came, and she had a blanket, and she was covering the patient with the blanket. And so it was clear for the patient, we both, Anke and me, we accept the situation, isn't it? So we really both, even the quote mother accepts what happens here, so it was even more clear that this is a childhood situation, although we are not polyamorous, just to say. And she, yeah, I mean, I mean, just to be
not
clear
yet.
on that. Oh. let's talk about this later. And she was writing then in her report, I looked around and saw Peter sitting quietly in his seat. Suddenly I felt the need to go over to him, sit down in front of him, and lean my back against him. I hesitated for a moment, but then I went over to him, and I was allowed to lean against him with all my weight so that I could really relax. A feeling of security and safety spread through me. This feeling was intensified when Anke came over, put a blanket over my legs, and put her hand on my leg. A motherly and fatherly security emanated from Anke and Peter that overwhelmed me and brought tears to my eyes. So also from her side, the situation is completely clear. So, and I think this is a successful physical contact, and we should try to incorporate successful physical contacts in therapy, in teaching each other and learning from each other. And in that point, I disagree with what Robert Schöver said this morning, that ethics does not mean that we discourage touch, but that we learn and teach about touch and do it the right way. And I mean, this situation, when you don't feel comfortable with it, then don't do it. Please don't do it. Then you can holding hands, or you can sit beside each other. That's always possible. This is not the only and right way to do it. There are hundreds of ways, and I think this was a successful way, and that's it.
Peter?
Yes?
We have to stop.
Sorry?
We have to stop.
Are we?
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't matter, yes. We can stop anytime, you know. How?
More minutes?
Yes.
Five.
Five
more minutes.
because the watch didn't work.
Oh, okay.
So I thought it's 20 minutes.
Okay,
so
our fault, 10 minutes.
No, but we rounded up. We said we talk, we tell stories, we can end telling stories, so that's not a problem.
Or yes, should I say it because the situation with the man in the group?
Yes, please, go ahead.
And one important thing also for women is that not for everybody, a mother is a good person. Not everybody has good experience with mother. And this is also important for female. And for example, we had a person a man, a 60-year-old physician. And it was so strong for me, this person, the child inside this person is so sehnsüchtig. Was ist das? Craving.
Craving, yeah.
Oder Sehnsucht?
Yeah, it's a longing.
Longing, yes, for closeness, for being touched, for being in a near relationship with someone, to feel secure and to feel. I felt it, but when I came a little bit nearer, I felt the whole body reacts like this, and we often have situations like that. It's really important to feel the body of the person, and the body, and you know there, and I knew it from the history of this man, the biography, that he really had extremely difficult situations with his mother and was abandoned, or what is the right word, and so on. And this is sometimes for a therapist, this is difficult because you have two information. There is somebody who needs something, and on the other hand, there is go away. And so we had, so I do it like that I always try something and then I go away, and I show that I go away. That's important, to show I am absolutely willing to go away. But I try, because if you don't try, that means you leave him alone. And you feel it in your body, and you say, oh no, okay, it's not okay, or this woman, and so on, and a lot of Übertragung, negative transference. But after a while, after 6 or 7 sessions, then it was just a little bit better, and then we had a situation where all the people in the end of the session, they danced, or the end of the session we dance. If you want to dance, you can dance, and you can lie on the ground and so on. And then he really ran away, went outside to sit on the stairs. And then I thought, okay, what to do? Is it better to go or not to go? And then I went outside, and he sat there, and I sat beside him, and then I could touch him for a moment. He could not react, it was not possible, but I felt that it was possible. He did not reject me. And I think he told you saw him later.
He really appreciated that you came, because he felt so isolated at that moment, and then you've been there, and he could accept you for being with him, even touching him.
Yes, and in fact, it's also like that people after the sessions, they hug. People, they do it. Yes, they hug, and it was to help him to learn how to hug. You can learn how to hug somebody. These are all really important things for people, so they can learn to go closer.
Yeah, okay, let's go to the summary. Just to sum up, a few messages we want to end with. So, working together as a couple is nothing new. It exists since a long time. The couples in PAT, we know, started mostly by personal motivation due to special circumstances, and not by theoretical concepts. And they are mostly identified as therapists rather than spiritual leaders or community founders. We cannot see a general rule if working as a couple is protective or a danger for therapeutic transgressions. at the end we have to admit it can be both. There is no general rule for that. Perhaps it is a temporary phenomenon for the generation of underground therapists and pioneers that will disappear with the development of PAT becoming more academic and more commercial. So, thank you for your attention, and now time for questions. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we'll have time for one or, if quick, two questions.
Oh, that's not much.
Is there people with microphones somewhere?
No more microphone?
No questions? Is that a bad sign?
With a loud voice?
No, I think we missed the microphone.
The microphone.
Oh yeah, if someone have a loud voice.
So there.
Good.
And then you maybe. Huh?
Hello, thank you very much. It's very beautiful, the work that you do. And my question is more personal, but I'm a couples therapist, and I really believe that couples that trip together stay together. So has been your own experience with psychedelics as a couple, and do you think that tripping together actually makes the relationship a little bit more vulnerable, open, transparent, lovable?
Ooh, that's a difficult question. So I think in total it makes the relationship more robust, because you really know each other on different layers, which does not mean that we have not conflicts and arguments, maybe even more, but they are more based on a relationship that you know it will not be the end of the end, but it will pass over. And for me, this was not so clear that when you have an argument that will not be the end. So I think it stabilized us. What do you think? Overall scene?
Not that we are tripping together very often, only we two together, only with other friends or so on. So yes, I think then you have time to look at your husband, who he really is, in a good way, I mean that. And in the daily life, it's like daily life is. All of you who live together in a couple situation know how daily life is. So but then to see somebody as how the person is meant.
I think it's really a great gift to encounter moments of oneness together with the person who is closest to you. Yet you have to live the everyday life in duality. That remains a task beside of that. Yes? Thank you. Maybe this one?
Hi. Oh.
Yeah.
Hi. So first, thank you very much for the talk. It's an honor to witness one of your last talks in public, actually. And this question is not so much about the couple component of it, but it's more about just your practice, each of you as psychotherapists doing this. And I thought it was really interesting what you mentioned about the group sessions that you started initially prior to psychedelic therapy, and how people really liked them and didn't want to leave. Mm-hmm. I wonder whether you have witnessed something similar with the psychedelic-assisted therapy, and maybe just to give a bit more direction to the discussion. Once I heard a quote, which I thought was really nice to hear, and it made me think a lot. And somebody said, in Spanish it sounds better because it said, a buen entendedor, pocos viajes, which means to a good listener, few trips are needed. But in the underground scene, we sometimes see people coming back for more and more. So I want to see your opinion about this.
Yes. Do I answer? So it's a good question. Thank you for that. I think a lot of patients, they would like to come all day, all life long, 2 times a year to have a psychedelic experience in a safe setting. That's a fantastic thing. I mean, it is clear. It's the healthy people, they take it all life long, but the sick ones, they should take it once or 2 times or twice. But it is clear, I'm very clear with the patient, and to say a therapy has a beginning and an end, especially therapy with psychedelics, they have to come to an end. The permission we have is for 1 year. After 1 year, you can get prolongation if it's necessary, but you have to report on that. You can get a 2nd year, even a 3rd year, but you cannot treat them eternally. So I think 3 times often is not enough, what you said. It often needs more, but it is clear it has to come to an end. That's therapy.
Can I ask next question, or
Yes.
is there any follow-up questions?
Really the last then.
Also, the last
Thank
one.
you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so thank you very much for this engaging talk. I have a question. I kind of already asked somebody else today, but I was not yet got my answer. So I'm wondering, like hearing of all this, the formation that you've been making in your life, I imagine you've been studying for a long time in your life in order to get all of your degrees. And I'm wondering, like there have been people doing this work with psychedelics in a lot of different cultural contexts. And I'm wondering, like, what is the best formation in order to really be able to hold space for people as they're going through psychedelic experiences? And I see like there's your degrees within Western universities, which is a legitimation, and which is also, I think, like a good legitimation to have a lot of knowledge about this in order to be a good therapist. But I was wondering, like, just given all these costs that it takes for people to become psychotherapists, is there any studies like seeing on what different formations can help people to develop these capacities to become good psychotherapists in this, and any studies that are kind of looking at whether it's better to have a formation with experience or an academic formation, because do we need to be scientists in order to be good psychotherapists? And I'd love to hear an answer.
Okay. It's a long question. Maybe I have to give a short answer. I'm really an advocate of getting the substances into Western medicine. And I was focusing of how could Western medicine professionals do that in our medical paradigm. So I can only say, if we want to do it the way we are doing it, you have to follow this. But there are other ways, of course. You can become a shaman in the Amazonian forest, and maybe you will make your way also. And that is nothing about quality. This is not that they are less gifted than we are. It's a different way of training. And in Western medicine, you have to have an academic training. You don't have to be a researcher, but you have to be a trained therapist in any kind.
Do you know if there's any studies like comparing the different qualities that, for example, people have having a training as a shaman or you as a medical psychotherapist? Are there any comparing studies about that?
I don't
Not yet.
think. No, I don't, and I don't think it's a very good idea, because it's a different approach. I think it's important to evaluate both and not to say this is superior and the other is inferior. But I think in some ways it's not that much comparable. Okay, thank you so much.